So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the COD QA meeting, which is happening on April 26th, 2018. So, the main goal today is to finalize the test cases and then also prioritize them, which are required for 6.0. And we also observed that there are many things which were been going around or moving around, and many things also changed. And I thought this will be a chance from development to get some good information for QA so that we can write good test cases, and then both of us are in sync. So I shared this document yesterday that we had been working on, and this document lists the test cases at a high level, and these are the test scenarios that we have targeted for 6.0, and this is the list based on the initial discussions when we started off with 6.0. And we also added a couple other scenarios here where the community is also helping us, and that we can go towards the end. But the main test we identified based on the previous experience of 5.0 and how we had been validating various environments and pods. So before we go through the test plan, I just wanted to update on the just quickly to let everyone be in sync, like what we have been doing in before, like validating pods. What did we do? So earlier we have validated the build procedures on pods with various profiles with rcod, mcod, and ecod. And after that, based on the build procedure, there were also some configurations that were present earlier, and we have automated those configurations, example being that for connect fabric switches to and compute nodes to ONOS, configuring compute nodes, and generate and loading network configuration. So some of this, based on the simple use case, we had automated those procedures. And after that, once the pod is installed and the configuration has been pushed on to the pods, we have some post-installation tests. Post-installation test depends on the kind of profile that we are installing on the pods. Could be rcod or mcod or ecod, and based on the profile, we are verifying the Docker containers. The respective Docker containers are up and running, and there are no errors on the logs, and proper ONOS applications have been installed, and like the very simple basic test. And then after that, after the checking of the profiles, then we also have some tests which will check the pod, whether the pod is functional or not. So these are very basic things, basic tests, where we are trying to ping through between different compute nodes and ping through fabrics, some of the mass services, Docker container status, and some other services which are important for which are required to be up and running on the pod. And once all these tests have been passed, then we run the control plane tests. And the control plane tests are the full end-to-end tests where we validate the end-to-end service chain. And the test which we had earlier was mostly for rcod, and we used to validate for multiple instance and single instance from end-to-end, from the end-to-end basis from the control plane of XOS based. And after that, once we create the instances, then we have some simple automated data plane test case where we are trying to validate whether the client, the subscribers are able to reach through the internet through the fabric, and those automated. So this is like in a nutshell, and we have to completely refactor all these test cases to validate based on the new Helm based installation procedures. And so going with that, we can go here. So COD platform related, we got some information from Gopi. So maybe Kailash, you can just quickly go over these. Kailash, do you want to go over this, or should I?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So same thing like before. The reason why we want to quickly validate the pod, and in this case now when we deploy all of our services via Kubernetes or Kubespray, we want to have some level of certainty that the pod has been instantiated correctly and all the services and the nodes are running and are healthy. So we need to level that. We need to accomplish that same level of certainty before we get into actually testing cord and testing all the services and doing data plane testing and stuff like that. So post build and configuration of the pod, we want to run this number of tests right here, and that so I'll go ahead and go through these tests right here that I have listed out here in bullets. So it's you're validating all the deployments are successfully rolled out and matches the replicas and the available replicas that are running, validating that all the pods are up and running, validating all the services are up and running, validating the pods have external connectivity. Now, I believe at one point I talked to Gopi about that, and he said some pods may not need external connectivity. So if I ever identify those, I'll make sure that we make an exception for, or we don't need to check for some of them that don't have need external connectivity. Validate that all pods can ping the cube system namespace. I'm not sure if that's required or not. That's something I'll have to consult with Gopi once again as well too. And validating that all the nodes are healthy. So there's a number of statuses that when you do like a kubectl get nodes, it replies back with if the nodes are ready, if what the out of disk status is, and if it's under memory pressure or disk pressure. That would be good to check right after post deployment, and just before we get into deep testing and all that. That would be good to validate. And then validating that all the containers in each of the pods are in running state. And we should probably even dig into the container logs as well too, and make sure that all the synchronizer containers are ready to go. I think previously, and it probably hasn't changed, but we were looking for the waiting in loop state or timeout ready or something like that. We were checking for a string to validate that the synchronizer has done all of its prep work and is ready to take request. So we intend this is the way we're intending on validating the cluster before getting into deep diving of cord testing and in cord specific services and all that.
Okay, so thanks, Kailash. So I think we are also going to validate earlier. I just mentioned about pods, but we have some validations even on the virtual environment, like the CIAB before, and we have other test cases which we run. But I think at this time we want to really focus on the pods first for the new install procedure. So I think here this just highlights like exactly what we want to do on the pods against the build procedure validation, post installation tests, sanity checks, control plane and data plane. This is what we, at a minimum, we want to achieve for 6.0. So if anyone has any additions that we need to add or any comments, please do let us know.
Suchitra,
Yes.
and Kailash, one of the things that would be useful for that first set of tests, the validation stuff, it would be nice to be able to run those standalone, not necessarily in the QA system. So if we could make it so that, so for example, the memory pressure checks or the external connectivity, basically anything that wouldn't touch that wouldn't modify the data model. So like node health or those sorts of things, that would be nice to have as a sort of something that an operator could use, as well as having that be something that we'd check during our QA testing.
So
just to take that into account. Does that make sense?
yeah. So Zach, to be
yeah, and
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Kailash.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to state that this is something that we can invoke in the bucket of tests that we can add to each Helm chart. So because what we're going to be checking and the deployments we're going to be checking is based off of what Helm charts we deploy, right? So so it's different. This test is also going to be written in Robot Framework, so we can definitely invoke that, and also in the bucket of tests per Helm chart as well too. So after you do like an Helm install Exhaust Core, I think you already started playing around with doing the Helm test on the Exhaust API test. So I'm sure there's a way we can just add that test to that bucket list right there too. And if you want to just do like Helm test, and I'm sure there's a way to specify which suite you want to run. So then it'll get run standalone and just validate that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a reasonable approach.
Okay, so
that's it. Keep going.
all right, thanks. So the next one is specifically to RCOD. So here what we are talking about is we are validating the new uh, the existing COD subscriber root service chain, which has been changed from based on the XOS model. So we want to try to validate that with the RCOD virtual profile that we had been using earlier, and then it will be the same end-to-end service check, but with few models which are added between the Volt device and the pawn pots instead of Volt tenants like before. So this is like a simple change, but I think the validation of the end-to-end also should be simple. And the next important one is the validating the RCOD Lite, which is the no VSG profile. And this is the new profile that we are talking about, and again here we need to write new test cases completely to validate the service chain from end to end. So we have to achieve that by writing some new control plane tests, and we need to validate that there are no VSG instances or containers are created as part of the test. And I think for the data plane verification, like before when we used in 5.0, we are not sure how we have to really test this. I think we still need to investigate on how do we need to validate the data plane connectivity using automated test scenarios. So I think we will get there when we are working on the profile. So we just started working on the RCode Lite profile now, and I think Jono. Some time back, I also talked with Jono, and we'll still follow up on these further. And this is a must for 6.0, so we definitely have to get it too high, unless anybody has any objections or anything that you guys feel that we need to change here. Okay. So I think the other one is the RCode including Volta, which is a little confusing. So not sure like how much do we need to validate in 6.0, and what is that we need to really test in for 6.0, and because we do not have any tests which we had done with Volta devices before, and as well here in ONF QA we do not have access to the ONU and Volta devices, and given the fact that we also need to make sure that how we want to achieve this. And yesterday we had there is another, I think Sean had forwarded some contacts where people are working on Volta test cases. So we have a meeting this afternoon to see like exactly what they are going to achieve. So based on that, I might get an understanding like towards which direction they are going and what kind of test they are going to achieve for 6.0. So that is still in progress from QA point of time, but I would like to get some inputs from the development, like what exactly is required here. Is Jono on the call or anyone else from, is Luca?
Not in the room.
Okay. Gopi, any inputs on this? Do you have any idea?
I apologize. I have been completely ignoring what you've been saying. Would you mind repeating the question?
No, I'm trying to get some important tests for Volta, integration with RCOD in 6.0, and what is that we want to make sure that at least for at a minimum in for 6.0 we want to make a pass on this release from Volta side.
So from what I understand, we did have a chat I think a couple of days ago. So when I talked to Jono, there is not going to be a classic RCOD. That's my understanding.
Right.
The decision was made very recently. It's only going to be the RCOD Lite or RCOD New, whatever we want to call it. This RCOD New is going to be with, like you say, Volta and the data plane services of RCOD running in the fabric. And all tests are basically revolving around that single RCOD use case. That would mean testing the hardware OLT, ONU devices that we put out as a reference implementation, testing the connectivity with Volta CLI, Volta Core, and Volta Envoy. I think they also come with OFDP and netconf configurations. These are the and I think the simple test that Luca does is a ping externally to check for connectivity, and this is it. If you are able to ping externally with these configurations, we declare success.
Okay.
And I think that should be the automated scheme as well.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I will also circle back with Saurav and Jono if there is any specific thing, and then I just confirm before we make any changes to the.
I don't think you will get a lot from Saurav or, well, yeah, you should talk to them obviously, but the real tests are actually being done by Luca. So he's the one who has been testing this entire platform integrated. I think what a lot of the Volta guys are doing, Saurav, Jono, the Sienna guys, they're testing each piece individually. We'll need that as well, obviously. But testing all of these pieces together, I think Luca is the first and the only guy doing it right now.
Yeah, I think I had already discussed with Luca yesterday after the stand-up. We were discussing in that room yesterday, and Luca mentioned that even he is confused on some of the things, exactly what is required for 6.0. Yes, whatever you had explained, the minimum, the simple test from going from one end to the other and through the to the external, the external connectivity, which is passing through the OLU and ONU and the fabric. But after that, he is also not aware. So he mentioned that he will talk to Saurav's team and then he will get back to us and then be in this meeting. So probably I can circle back with them later after the meeting or get some inputs as well then.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Gopi.
No problem.
And then I think here one of the other item that we did not put here for the code platform related, I also just wanted to bring up the item for the OpenStack. Do we think that we want to test anything related to OpenStack?
Again, I think Andy will be the right person to talk about it. I don't think we are at a stage where we can define a bunch of tests with OpenStack. The purpose of OpenStack is to be able to do what we did with 5.0 and earlier without breaking anything, hopefully, and that means being able to create the MCOD scenario and run the MCOD scenario. I think the most reasonable test would be to see that we are able to create the MCOD scenario with with OpenStack.
Okay, I thought Andy was on the call. Andy, are you there on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey Andy, yeah, my question that I have is, let's say if we are having the OpenStack, are we going to also test the old RCOD profile where we have to still create VSG instances and still validate that kind of scenario? The old RCOD profile for 6.0?
So as Gopi was saying, it sounds like for 6.0, the emphasis is really on the new RCOD Lite profile, and I don't know exactly what happens with the old R chord if we continue to bring that along or just forget about it. I don't think that we've completely decided yet, but it sounds like there's not too much interest in maintaining that.
Okay.
As Gopi was also saying, that the main reason why we're pushing on OpenStack for 6.0 is to be able to continue to support mChord. So that would probably be the best test moving forward is to focus on mChord testing.
Okay.
I guess the problem there is we've never had an mChord test that has worked quite as well as like the
R chord.
end-to-end test for R chord, right?
Yes, we never focused on mChord because we left it to the community, and they were the ones which we were supposed to add those test cases for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think that if the mChord for the OpenStack changes, if they are available for 6.0, will that be a must item to validate from the mChord side?
I would expect as soon as mChord is ready to release their latest stuff, which I don't think has actually happened yet, that testing is going to be an important part of that. And I guess we'll want to continue testing that, whatever they release. Let's call it 5.1, because I think what they're planning on releasing is based on the old 5.0.
Okay.
Whatever tests that we have for that will involve OpenStack should continue to work as we move to 6.0 and the new OpenStack.
Okay, but maybe are they planning to release any mChord version as part of 6.0?
I have not really been in close touch with the mChord team. I'm not sure what their plans are. It seems like their releases are kind of out of sync with the platform releases typically. So they're still working on a release based on 5.1. And I guess let's assume that happens. I guess all I'm saying is my expectation is that 6.0 would not break whatever they release for 5.1.
Okay, and just to confirm, so let's assume that the OpenStack changes, and the mChord. Maybe this is a question for Ping Ping as well. For mChord scenarios, is it again going to be like the Helm based install, like on the Kubernetes, or the mChord 5.1 would be the old way of installing?
My expectation is that mChord 5.1 would be the old way.
Oh.
And then there would be some additional work to do at some point to bring that over to the new way.
Okay.
And hopefully that would, whatever they release for 5.1 and the old system would continue to work.
Okay. So, all right, maybe I will check with Ping Ping on this as well.
Sure, yeah. I think, I would like to be involved in that conversation too.
Okay, sure, Andy. Then I will let you also know about it then.
Great.
Every discussion
So
we
Andy,
have had about
it seems like mChord continually has like this demo hangover, I would probably call it. They end up doing some demonstration like the MWC demonstration or something, and then they end up behind everybody.
Yeah.
Is going forward, does it look like we're going to run into another one of those before the 6.0 release cycle hits? I guess I'm trying to figure out how much work will it be involved to get that 5.1 release done versus getting them up on 6.0.
Yeah, that is also true. Yeah, I understand. I think maybe this is one of the questions we should discuss in TST as well. That is what I feel, because I know that the community who is waiting for mChord the next release, everyone from the community who is trying to use MCOD is at 4.1, and there are some limitations in 4.1, and they want some new features for MCOD. But then the new release of MCOD is not happening, and then people are waiting for that. Maybe we should really bring up this discussion in one of the meetings and see like what's the plan.
Yeah, I agree with that. It might be good to also just to, as you suggested, just to sync up directly with Ping Ping. So as maybe we could do that before we bring it forward at the TST, just to make sure that she doesn't get caught by surprise.
Yeah, sure. I agree. Yeah, maybe a TST is not a good place, probably. Yeah, maybe one of the stand-ups. Probably one of the stand-ups would be a good, like after the stand-up we can meet and then talk.
Yeah, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, Gopi?
Yes.
So every time we have talked about MCOD for 6.0 release, almost everybody, not almost, actually everybody says there is no way we are going to get container-based data plane services of MCOD ready for 6.0. Everybody. So even if we do talk with the MCOD team, I don't think that we are going to be suddenly surprised by the fact that everything is suddenly containerized. They're all going to be VM-based. If history tells us anything, there is a very good chance that the MCOD profile is not going to be ready for 6.0, because it's reasonable to assume that the MCOD team is waiting for us to say that we have a stable platform where you can start migrating your code. This is exactly what happened with 4.0 and 5.0. We tell they, I think like in the last month of us trying to freeze our development and deployment framework, they come to us and say what's going on with your release, and then we say, yeah, here you go, and they spend some time, and a lot of times we are not able to release the MCOD profile with our platform release. We always end up doing a 0.1 or a 0.2 release, and that's likely going to happen if we want to definitely have a stable MCOD profile for 6.0. We should probably engage with them right now, even though it might not be very useful because they can't test this with the existing version of OpenStack. We might want to ask them and just learn if they're even going to plan to release something for 6.0, or they're just going to wait until after 6.0 to do something. To answer one of these Zach's questions, I do think that they are working on some other sort of, at least Oz is working on some other sort of demo. I think there's another ONS coming up sometime in June, July, or something like that. So there's talk about that. Let's talk about some sort of an ONAP, another ONAP integrated demo. So I think, like you say, they're always in a demo cycle, but that should not preclude us from trying to get MCOD in for 6.0. The whole point of the OpenStack work is to get MCOD, because nobody else seems to be caring about either classical RCOD or ECOD.
Yeah, I think MCOD is also being, there is a lot of attraction in the community for MCOD as well. Maybe the team, we do not know, maybe MCOD has a specific goal list, goal items based on some timelines, which we are not aware. I feel as well that we should, as Andy was saying, that we should meet Ping Ping separately and then get these inputs, because even for testing side, even we want to prioritize what is required for this release and going forward. And I know that I need to pass this information to the community as well.
I very strongly suspect that Ping Ping will put it back in our code and say, are you guys ready? You know, that's what's going to happen. I think we should start talking to Ping Ping.
Okay, I will talk to her and then see if she can meet for a meeting, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So Gopi, just to be clear, so I think there's two threads going on here with MCOD, which are pretty much orthogonal. There's the first one is for the let's just call the 5.1 release based on the old build system. And this one is mainly involved, as I understand it, with getting the VNFs in good shape. And it's not really, on the platform team, to make this happen. It's really on the MCORD team to get the right VNF images and the right synchronizer playbooks for setting them up correctly and making sure that setup is robust. So, in the past, I'd been helping a little bit there, but I kind of have lost touch with that activity. I'm not quite sure where it's at now.
Okay.
And then there's the totally different question of, assuming we have those VNFs, how could we deploy them in OpenStack on 6.0? So I don't think containerizing those VNFs comes into it for 6.0. That might be a 7.0 goal. But 6.0, my expectation is taking those OpenStack VNFs, running them in our new OpenStack that we have set up. And I think you're right there that work of porting over those VNFs to the new system and creating a profile, a Helm set of Helm charts and so on, that's going to fall on the platform team. And that's fine. I can step forward and work on that because I've done that in the past with MCORD.
I'm not implying that we do the work in porting the 5.1 over. Like you say, we will likely do that. We will likely help them as a team. What I'm saying is, if you go to Ping right now and say, what are your plans for 6.0? I believe Ping will just say, you tell me, what are your plans for 6.0? That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, and that's the right response for Ping to make, because she needs to focus, I think, on 5.1 and getting right. the VNFs just working and getting it out there for the people who are trying to use it.
Yeah, so so what that means is we should be the one who are directing what happens with the profile. So yes, we can go to Ping and check with her what their status is with their 5.1 release, and if they think it's in good enough shape to start talking about 6.0 release. But ultimately, we will be the ones who say we are ready to start testing 6.0 MCORD. What are the pieces? Can you please let us know? I think we should be the drivers.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay, so I just put few questions here, so that will be after we discuss the plan with Ping. Can we move forward? All right, so moving forward, the other area that we have is Jenkins environments, where we are migrating from the old Jenkins to the new. And we mentioned here that migration will be done based on the prioritized list. And I think we are already work in progress. And even in the previous calls, we have discussed on what are the jobs that we want to migrate first to let everybody be in sync. So we are targeting for the migration, which is mostly completed for the pipeline job, which was used for validating the various patch sets for various repos. And I think we still need to decide on the environment that we want to deploy and run the tests. So I could be Minikube or anything else which is a lightweight profile. So since it's work in progress and this is high, so we can just move forward. And then the next target for migration is the pod related jobs. And the first one that we are targeting is the build procedure updates, which is the new Kubernetes environment based setup. And we already have the pod identified in Flex for that, which is our ONF equipment itself, and we have recabled everything based on the new procedure changes that we have. And we should definitely start writing the procedure and then validating the new installation procedure on this. This is the next task we want, which is like very high priority. And then once one of the pods work, then we want to put the changes on the other pods as well. And then this is another internal to us, migrating SOAP pods to 6.0 towards the end. Anything else in the Jenkins environment? Anybody has any thoughts or suggestions, comments?
So there, just to give some status, the XOS Sanity pipeline is pretty much moved over. There's still a few issues with it that I'm looking to debug, but the old style API tests are working. The work in progress, I am pretty close to getting Minikube going and running the tests. That's what I'm working on right now. So I'm thinking that'll be end of the week or sometime beginning of next week when those will be able to be run standalone, and then making a JJB job for them shouldn't be that much trouble. The one issue I did run into is that the Kubernetes version supported by Minikube doesn't support the same version that we're using for the rest of the tests, but I don't think that's a big issue. It's running a slightly newer version.
Okay.
I think we're in pretty good job on those tests.
And then to add to that, yesterday I checked in the new test, so we can add it to the job as well. I can send you the list of test cases, Zach, and then you can add them as well, the old style test cases.
Okay, that sounds good. A few other things. We wanted to test the Helm upgrade procedure. So I think we need to probably come up with a test for that to go from one version to another version. But that's something that was probably not a pod related job. It's a sort of an API job that would probably happen at post, not on check-in, but maybe after check-in. And especially after we get a released version on Kubernetes, to be able to test a migration from, say, 6.0 to whatever the dev version. But that's something that would come later.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me just go ahead here.
Yeah.
And then just a quick question here. So how long for Apr26 to be deployed and running the test? How long is it taking, Zach? Is it like 2 to 3 minutes or?
Minikube, running the API tests in Minikube, start to end, including all of the download and setup of Docker and everything, was about 5 minutes. But that's going to be pre-installed in the by Packer in the JGB setup. So I think we're probably, but that's also on Cloud Lab, which might be a little bit faster than on AWS. So I'm going to say my best guess is that this is going to be a sub 10 minute for the API test job, assuming that people aren't doing things like modifying containers and requires container rebuilds and that sort of thing. That's also with running the jobs in parallel. So I'm taking advantage of some parallelism that Make gives us, and that concurrency speeds it up because you can do things like install Minikube while you're building containers. I'm not sure whether, I know we turned that off in previous builds because it was sort of, the output was somewhat confusing. I think we'd have to make a decision from whether we either teach everybody how to read that output and maybe archive the output as artifacts, and then teach people how to read when it errors out, versus making it simple and just take a little longer. I could use input on which way people think would work better.
Yeah,
but
I think 5 to 10 minutes is very good, right? Because earlier it used to be 20 minutes, and then it's like half time down.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this too.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it works out once we get it implemented.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. All right, so moving on, just to let everybody be in sync again, we have this RCOD performance scale stability testing that we had been doing on COD 5.0, as I also talked in one of the meetings previously. So this is with the help of the community, Flex, Spirant, and ONF together. We have been working on one of the pods, and which had been soaked for almost like 3 months, and then the basic idea is to verify the stability of the system, and then also at the same time we were trying to scale up the VSGs, VCPs, and trying to emulate the tests and emulate traffic for these VSG containers that we have, VSGs and containers that we have created, and everything looks good. But we did find a couple issues during this process, so we plan to continue the same thing with 6.0 as well when everything looks stable for 6.0. And we are almost we have wrapped up the test for 5.0, and we are in the process of generating a detailed report so everybody can get an idea of what issues we faced and the limitations we observed and the results for the test. Any questions, comments, or anything that you think that we need to add? Okay, so here is some.
I think having the long running stability tests sounds really good. And what would be nice is once we get the upgrade and migration worked out, to when a new patch hits master, maybe if we have two pods that are doing the stability test, that we run through that upgrade procedure on those pods. So this would be like a Helm upgrade on them as new patches hit master.
Okay. So we need to identify a pod. Yeah, so we need to identify a pod for that specific purpose then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I already found one, so I will let you know, Zach, so we can work on it then. Okay, so this is the information and the diagram that we have been, the pod connectivity diagram that shows. So I'm not going in details. You can look up for more details even at the end of the document, like exactly what we have been doing on that soak pod. And the other item is the MCOD. Again, as I was indicating earlier, the community who is working on these MCOD tests, they do have many tests where they are trying to validate various components of MCOD, but they are still at MCOD 4.1 and they have faced some issues and limitations with 4.1, for which they are waiting for new features in the new release of MCOD. And they have been asking, like, when will the new MCOD, the next version of MCOD will be released so they can proceed with more tests. So this is just a brief description of what kind of tests they are doing, and then they have their own tools, like how it interacts with our system, and what it also shows, like what's the test bed and what is that they're trying to emulate various kinds of packages in node components in MCOD as well, and then trying to test various scenarios. Okay, this is it. We have for 6.0. If there are any other items, please do let us know. If there are any changes as well, please do help us in identifying the important tests so we can get through them for 6.0 release. And if we are adding more tests for the main concern is for this RCOD and then MCOD as well. The rest of the items can be achieved for 6.0, but if we are including many tests for RCOD integration with, Volta integrated with RCOD, then we need to definitely prioritize that list and then work. Otherwise, I'm not sure how we are going to achieve for 6.0 tests. So I can take this item later when we have more information on these sections.
Yeah, and with any of the other tests too, if you guys have any comments or need clarifications or have any additional tests, just I think we can use this document and add comments to that, and then we can plan accordingly. I think that would be great, so that we don't have a bunch of other threads or emails or Slack. Well, I mean, obviously we can discuss over Slack too, but I think we're mostly going to be focusing on this plan here on this document. So if you guys want to add comments to this, that would be helpful too. At any point, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. So anyone else has anything else to bring up? Any concerns? All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for sharing the inputs and attending the meeting. This helps us a lot in prioritizing what QA wants to focus and then use it for this release. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Aditya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.